Thank you so much. Today I will be speaking about Dominique Morisseau. She is an excellent playwright, and I'm going to be focusing on how she focuses on community within her three-play cycle. So I'll just get on with it. So many of you probably don't know who Dominique is. And basically Dominique, she is a Detroit native. She's right from here. She grew up here. She attended Cass Tech. She, after graduating from Cass Tech, she went on to University of Michigan, majored in theater, and graduated with a BFA in theater. She did a lot of community work around here when she was a student. She was a performance poet at Harmony Park. Well, really she did a lot of poetry around the time when she was a student here. And then after that, she went on to New York. She was a part of a lot of playwrights workshops and whatnot. And then from then on, once she started writing her plays, she was receiving awards like crazy. A few of them, she won 8 Adelco Awards, and then she's a 2-time NAACP Image Award, and she's received so many grants and other types of awards and whatnot, and it could take me all day to talk about every one of them. But that's just a little bit about Dominique. And even currently right now, she is one of the main writers for the Showtime TV show Shameless. So if you watch that TV show, then you would know about her from her writing from that. So she does a lot of stuff. So Blair Underwood, if you know Blair Underwood, he's a famous actor. He stated that Dominique's work is a mix of Tennessee Williams meets August Wilson meets Lorraine Hansberry. And so if you know any of these playwrights, you know these are the top playwrights in the field. And so all of this mixed together, she is thebomb.com. So here are some images. Just wanted you to see images of it. I wish I could bring in a theater and have all the shows performed up here, or have rights to show all these shows, but that's not going to happen. So at least you can see the images, and I'll be going in more info and reading some of the monologues a little bit later from the plays. But right here, Paradise Blue. These two pictures, Detroit 67, and this is also Paradise Blue, and Skeleton Crew. And so with these plays, these are these 3 plays of the Detroit projects. They are 3 main critical eras in Detroit's history. So with Paradise Blue, that starts in 1949, and then Detroit 67. 1967 Rebellion, and then with Skeleton Crew 2008, during the time when the factories were closing down, and which that's my next slide, the recession that was going on here in Detroit. And I forgot to add with Paradise Blue, talking about Paradise Valley, Black Bottom, all of that era that was going on in urban renewal. And actually with Paradise Blue, that is the play that really most reflects what's going on today right now with dealing with the blight. So yes, I'm gonna keep on going. So really, just to know a little bit more about Morisseau, is that she has a muse, and what really gets her going is the conversations in the communities, the conversations with the people that she is writing about. She talks about that, she told me that she would listen to her grandmother, her aunts and uncles, and the conversations around the table. She would go on buses and listen to all those conversations. And all that was soaking in just to hear the community, because she wanted her plays to reflect the community and reflect what was going on. So what better way to do it than to listen to the people, to the community. And so she was really inspired by that. The power of music. With music, with every play, she is reflective of the music that is going on. Like for instance, with Paradise Blue, it's a lot of jazz and blues. With Detroit 67, you're gonna hear Motown. Then with Skeleton Crew, you're gonna hear the hip hop. And even they bring up with an older character in the play, Aretha Franklin. So it's still that connection with Motown and whatnot. So all of that power of music always reflects her plays. And she has a desire to make history humane. She said before that when she was in high school, she thought history was boring. She wanted to fall asleep. She had a countdown in history class. She was like, oh my God, 10, 9, 8. She just wanted it to be over because it was so boring, just hearing facts and dates and who cares, and whatever. But then once she was able to make it human, once she could see the humanity in what was going on during that time, then she ended up being able to care about that. And that's what's the most important thing for her, to really reflect the history and really to make it exciting. And even I can say that for myself I'm working with a high school now, Old Redford Academy. And with the high school students, I'm having them read Detroit 67. And the kids, they couldn't stop reading the play. They were so excited, and they still talk about how much they love that play. And we use that to really get delve in deep with 67 Rebellion, and they just love the play, and they're just so interested about the play. They talk about the characters like that's their cousin, that their mama, all this stuff, and they're so excited, and they're excited about talking about that time period because of that play, because it makes those characters humane. It makes something real, and they were able really to relate what's going on. When they're reading that play about the violence that's going on, they say, oh, that's me in my neighborhood when the police come up in my neighborhood and they arrest me for no reason. So then they could see that, and then they end up knowing that history more. And that was one of her big goals to be able to do. So she was inspired to write the Detroit projects from these two wonderful playwrights. Pearl Clegg, Pearl Clegg is from Detroit. She loved the way that Pearl Clegg wrote the humanity in the female characters. So many times in plays, especially older plays, that you only have one female playwright or two females with all these great male roles. And as an actor, that just bugs the mess out of me, because I want a meaty role, and then they have this one little wimpy little girl come in and boop, boop, and then leave out. But she, Pearl Clegg, she writes really in-depth female characters, and Dominique wanted to do that. And so that was one push to really write this Detroit projects. Then also with August Wilson, 10-play Century Cycle. If you don't know anything about August Wilson, he wrote a play. That encapsulated every decade in the 20th century about the African American experience, all the way from 1900 all the way to the 90s. So every decade, I think that was set 1901, then 1911, and going on and so forth. And so, and all of them except one of those plays was set in Pittsburgh, where he's from. So she wanted to be able to do something like that for Detroit, because y'all know Detroit gets a bad rap. When you're not from here, people, they say some things about Detroit, because I'm not from here, and people were saying, oh my God, it's dangerous, you're gonna get jumped and all, it's a lot of bad things that go on in Detroit. And I'm like, it's not that bad. So, she wanted to make some things about Detroit and to help people see Detroit in a different light than how maybe other people may see it. And so, so she wanted to do what August Wilson did. And then also with August Wilson plays, it's so musical, and the musicality in those plays, it really resonated with her. So she wanted to do that as well. So with that, that's how she has the Detroit projects. So going into the first play, with Paradise Blue, I'm going to give you some history, some information about that time. The play is set in 1949, and during that time, it was a place viewed as freedom through the Paradise Valley and Black Bottom. It was an area that blacks could own and have an enjoyable nightlife. It was a strip. The Paradise Valley had a strip of just jazz clubs and blues clubs. And within that area of Black Bottom, that was all the black community. They had their own businesses. You can buy groceries, get your hair done, all those things within that community without worrying about being harassed and whatnot. So that was the thing during that time. Then the wonderful Albert Cobo was just elected mayor. Woohoo! And by the way, he is one of the top 5 worst mayors. Just to let you know that. So, one of the top 5 worst mayors elected as mayor in 1949. That was the same year when the Housing Act was passed. And he wanted to make a lot of changes about urban renewal. You know, he stated a lot of things about taking the blight out of certain areas, and really that really meant to take out the black areas. And so this is an image of Detroit before the Highway 375 started really coming in. And that's the area where Black Bottom was located. So when they started putting the highways through here, that totally depleted all of this area. And so so now when you drive through 375, just know that was where Black Bottom was located. And so it cut up a community. And so a community that once was together, now it's torn apart because of a highway. Because mostly every major city, when you see a major highway, 9 times out of 10, it was through a poor neighborhood, and specifically a black neighborhood. Because those people could not vote during that time or have the power to make that change when they wanted to put those highways in. And basically those highways was put in so then you can get to the city, to the suburbs. And during that time, a lot of the blacks were in the city. So so basically that wiped out a thriving business and the community of Paradise Valley. With Paradise Valley, they had famous jazz musicians come in and whatnot. All Coltrane was here, Miles Davis, all these great blues and jazz players, and it was totally wiped out because of that. So, and just showing you some more pictures of images from Detroit. Flame, that used to, it was called Flame Snowball. And this image, or this jazz joint was on the corner of Canfield and John R. So right now, I think that area is where part of the hospital is, I think. So all that area was wiped out. So you will not see that anymore. So so you see all those different things. And so with Dominique, she wanted to encapsulate, this was a time when her grandparents were living and going and living about. So she wanted to really write a play that reflected what was going on, and but not make it sound like it was a history lesson in the play either. So I'm going to read a scene from the play, and then you will hear some of the things that sound familiar, like some street names and whatnot within here. And so so in this scene, there's a character Corn, P. Sam, Blue, and Blue, he is the owner of Paradise Blue. He's the one he wants to sell the bar. I mean, he wants to sell the jazz club and sell it to the city. And they don't know it. The other players that are in this scene don't know that yet. And then the other character named Pumpkin, that's his girlfriend, and she also works in the club. And they're just having a conversation about what's going on. So I'm gonna read that to you. Corn said they've been talking about the plan. This new mayor about to take off, this Mayor Kobo, he done ran his campaign on it. P. Sam, the one where they supposed to be clearing up the slums. Corn, getting rid of the blight in the city. That's what he said on the radio. P. Sam, blight? What's he meaning by that? Blue, he means these rundown buildings over there on Hastings Street. That's what he means. And I don't blame him none. Some of these places are a real eyesore. Make all our spots look run down. I hope you get rid of it good and send them low-class niggas back to the outskirts of the city so the rest of us can finally move on up. Corn, them folks ain't doing nothing but living where they can afford. That's all. Ain't they fault some of them buildings is run down? Half of them don't even own them buildings. Just pay them what they can afford. Ain't they fault? Blue, fault don't matter. Long as Black Bottom stay what it is, cramped and overcrowded, we ain't never gonna have what all them white folks got. Niggas always coming around here asking for handouts and free room and board while they get on their feet. Ain't but so much favors you can do. I rely on these fools, I'm liable to go bankrupt. Pumpkin. I like it here in Black Bottom. I always got somewhere I can count on. No Buffalo James gonna always offer me some of his cornmeal if I run out here. No Patty Poindexter gonna always give me a pressing curl whether I got the money to pay her or gotta owe her to her till the next time. These folks over here like family. Always got time to pull favors for family. So within that little section of it, you hear like some of the street names, you hear some of the things that are going on with Mayor Cobo making those changes. And then also you hear the relationships of the opinions of these musicians and the people in the play. And so there were some people there were some blacks who felt like, okay, yes, he's gonna clean out this blight, he's gonna clean out the slums, please, let's do it. There were some blacks who were like that because they didn't know totally what that meant. No one said that they were gonna like clear the whole community until after the fact when everything changed. But a lot of people knew what was coming and knew that it was gonna be bad with that. So that's what Dominique wanted to do. She wanted people to hear the community talk. She wanted to hear that there was talent in this community. There were great jazz musicians. There were people just like people everywhere. And so yeah, that was 1949. Then moving along in the play Detroit 67, this is also known as the 12th Street Riots. And that is the Detroit Race Rebellion in the summer of 1967 in July. Now this is one of the the most violent riots, or really what is known as rebellion in the history of the nation. It was in the 20th century. And this was an immediate response to the police brutality that was going on. They had segregated housing in schools, rising black unemployment, and everything was just going downhill. And people got tired of being mistreated. And literally what happened is a group of policemen, they raided a blind pig. And if you're not sure what a blind pig is, basically a blind pig is basically a juke joint or a club that's underground that people don't know about that sells liquor. And they're selling it without a license. And a lot of people did that because the licenses for black bars and clubs were so expensive, so they did a lot of that stuff underground. So the police walked in there, and what the story is told that they didn't realize it was going to be as many people as they thought. So they come in there, and then they like, police, what up? You're under arrest. And then all of a sudden these folks are like, no, this is not going to happen today. They got sick and tired of it, so they started retaliating. So they called in more police, and then that's when the destruction started happening. Back and forth, the police started fighting the people, then more black people started defending themselves, and then the community started getting trashed, and then just back and forth. They ended up bringing the the military in, and it ended up becoming a war zone through here, and really changed the climate in this community, and change it even now. And we're actually going into 2017 will be the 50th anniversary of the 67 rebellion. So right here you see an image of a gentleman. He's being stopped by 3 policemen right here, and then you see it in the background. A lot of the businesses through here are totally destroyed. So with that, this was also the same time, around the time Motown Records. It's booming. This is the most successful African-American owned record company during that time. And the music, it gave an optimistic energy to what was going on. That music, you can dance with it. Even though negative things were happening, you still want to party and have a good time, and really enjoying life with all that music. So even though a lot of negative things were going on with a lot of racial division, that music really helped bring people together. And so with that in mind, all that history that's going on is reflected in the play within that community. And so, so with Detroit 67, it's about a brother and a sister. They have basically an underground juke joint or club in their basement of their house. And so at night, they would have a party and they would get the liquor, and they would, around a certain time, they would get people to come on over, and they would, you know, it cost to get in and whatnot, to be, help be able to raise money to be able to send Shell's son to school and to be able to live comfortably. So Lank's dream is to really have his own bar. He wants to be able to live above ground, to really have something successful, like everyone, or at least the white people that he sees. He wants to be able to be successful like that. And so they end up, Lank and his friend Sly end up purchasing this bar without Shell's permission. And the money that makes it bad is the money that they had was Shell and Lank's. So Shell is mad at her brother for buying this bar without her permission. So, but he already purchased it, and then all of a sudden, boom, the rebellion happens. So all this is going on, and during that time, if you didn't write on your business that this is owned by a black person, they would bash it, they would tear it down, light it on fire. And so they're trying to, you know, to really protect their spot. And so this monologue that I'm going to read is towards the end when Lank and Sly are trying to protect their spot. Now imagine there's a lot of military down the street, police down the street protecting. If they see anybody through there that they don't want, they will stop you, they will shoot you, they will beat you, whatever they want to do to you. And so Lank is coming, this is after they have come back. Lank has come back and told Shell and one of their good friends, Bunny, that Sly was killed by the police. And now he's talking about it to his sister Shell. I lost him, Shell. I was there with him till the end. There when he signed the papers in our name. There when he went running after them pigs who showed up trying to burn us down, trying to send us a message for being uppity. There when we chased after him. There when them big tanks rolled around the corners. He ain't seeing what I see. Told him to stop. Don't run after that. He ain't see him rolling up. Them soldiers that come to back up the police for the riots. Saw niggas chasing out the cops and decided the niggas were the ones to shoot. And I was there when they shot him, Shell. There when he fell, went back to him and lifted him in my arms. Felt his blood soak my shirt. Saw his chest open. I was there, Shell, to the end. He was my best buddy. So with that monologue, you hear that he's talking about his best friend, losing his best friend just because he had a dream. And so many people in real life during that time, they just had a dream to just want a business, want to be able to be more than what their parents were, and they were killed literally in the streets. I was told another story about this guy who was I think in his early 20s during that time, and all of a sudden he heard that through the police radio that his name came up, that they were looking for him randomly, and so one of his friends in the police force came by the house and said, "You need to get out of here." So what he did was he hid him in his the trunk of his car and drove on out. And if he didn't do that, he would have been dead because his brother-in-law got shot the next day. So, so it wasn't a game, it was real. And so with that, a lot of times people hear about the rebellion and the violence that was going on, and really what people know about it is a riot. They deem it as that black folks are sitting there bashing things in, but a rebellion is a reaction to what has been happening. It's you're responding to being marginalized, being mistreated. Not a riot where people just, tearing stuff up. It wasn't that. It was a reaction to all the mistreatment that was going on. And it continued to go on. And so so Dominique wanted to tell that story about the humanity, the people who were living there during that time, because you don't get to hear that much. And so we move on to 2008. And so, so I see some of the students that are in here, you're probably more familiar with 2008, that you were a child during that time. So some of you all in here probably remember some of your friends' parents, or maybe some of your parents or uncles or somebody, if you live around in this community, people being laid off, or laid off from the factories, and the recession and a lot of things that were going on during this time. So, so we're going to go to Kwame Kilpatrick. So he is also, on top of Kobo, he is also one of the 5. He's actually the #1 worst mayor in Detroit. Yeah. So, I know that's a surprise. So he was mayor from 2002 to 2008. And because of Kwame, the city's credit plummeted. I mean plummeted. Everything, if you worked in the city all your life, and then the credit and all the money that like evaporated from here, people were hurt. They're still hurt now because of all the things he's done. And in 2008, Kilpatrick pleaded guilty to the obstruction of justice and charges, and you know, of course, had to leave office. So with that, that was a serious time during that time, very serious. They had, I remember, because I wasn't living here during that time, I saw the court proceedings on TV during that time. At that time, I never thought I would be here. I'm like, whoa, wow, that's, you know, that's some shady stuff going on in Detroit. Oh, wow. You know, I'm watching TV, not even thinking I'm going to be here in a few years. And so, but I mean, of course, I don't have that light on it, but I was like, but it's a different experience when you're not living here. And so, so yeah, Kwame, you know, that helped with the destruction. And during that time, well, even before then, in the city's population in 1950, it was at 1.86 million. And then in 2012, the census showed the city had about 700,000 residents. So, I mean, the people just fled. And that is because of, in the 50s, white flight, when those suburbs started forming in. And then during the time with the decay of the city, and especially after the 67 rebellion, a lot of the black community, people within there, they started just leaving and moving on to other places. So a lot of people just started leaving and leaving and leaving, and then now it's only 700,000 people that are left during 2012. And so during that same time, factories were closing. So, so a lot of the factories, and here's one in this image right here, that a lot of the factories, and this is a factory town, you know, the Ford Motor Company, a lot of things were just going downhill. And so a lot of people lost their jobs, and so when you have a loss of jobs, then that means no money, and then all the shaky real estate that was going on, then people having to move out their house, and getting evicted, foreclosed, all these things going on, that, you know, it's just boom, one thing after the other, one thing after the other, and Detroit's just not getting a break. And because Detroit is such a center of so many things that's going on and so many great things, when something bad happens here, it affects everywhere. For instance, with the issues with the car companies here and it going downhill, it affected North Carolina, where I'm from, because there's places in North Carolina that build the screws for the cars. So that's why it's such a big deal that, you know, everybody, it's always on TV, because it's such a big connection to what's going on throughout the nation. So yes, all that destruction going on. So at first, if you're not from here, you're just hearing all of these negative things that are going on, and you're hearing, man, Detroit needs to get it together, what is going on? But you're not hearing the humanity and what things are being done. Like people are coming in, doing these crooked things, and then leaving out. And really the community ends up carrying that burden. And with that, Dominique wrote a play that was dealing during that time. And Skeleton Crew is basically about this stamping plant, and they're about to close in about a year. And it's about these workers within that plant. and how they work together, and they're like a family and look after each other. And then there's this one character named Faye who's worked there for 29 years, and they're about to lay her off without her knowing. They're about to lay her off right before she gets her 30 years. And she says in that play, you know, benefits are totally different with 29 years and 30 years. So so that affects her as well, and along with the other younger characters in the play, that they don't necessarily have a place to go and whatnot. And so what I'm about to read is a character, Shanita. She is one of the characters, and she's the pregnant worker. She's pregnant, working at the stamping plant, and she's continuing to work because she has to, and she has to take care of her baby. And before she says this monologue, Des, who's one of the other characters, just got caught with having a gun in his locker. And so they're afraid that he's going to get fired and whatnot. And so she ends up just starting to talk about the city. The whole city is under construction. That's what I discovered on my way into work today. Traffic on the 75 was crazy. They done took everything down to one lane, and people don't know how to merge. Cars backed up for miles because people don't know how to merge. Don't matter what freeway you take, it be the same selfish behavior on all of them. Everybody got somewhere to be and don't want to let you in, even when you honk at them, even when you try to smile pretty and be polite with it. That mess used to work at one point. I could always squeeze into a lane with a smile, but not no more. Nobody wants to merge no more. We just getting squished into smaller lanes while they're making these promises to fix the freeways and don't seem like they ever really get fixed. And at the end of the day, we just hate driving with each other because ain't enough space, and fools don't want to let you in. And all I can think anymore is if we just merged, it would flow so much better in the whole city. So with that monologue, she's talking about the highway and Highway 75, and I know everybody knows about the traffic on 75 and 94 when you're trying to leave and you stuck in that traffic forever, and yeah, people won't let you in and whatnot, but she's talking about the community, really. It's reflective of what the community is. Everybody wants this and wants that, but no one wants to work together in the community, and it's making it hard. And even with the stamping plant where they're working, people are not wanting to work together as a community. And when people don't want to work together, then there's a destruction and things fall apart. So, but she talks about it in the way of the freeway. So here's some more images. This is with Skeleton Crew, and this is actually when Faye, she's told that they're going to be letting her go. And then with in Paradise Blue, this is Pumpkin holding Blue, and Blue has some mental disorders, and he's like really in an emotional state at this moment. And right here, this is at the end after I said the monologue that I was talking about. That's when they're hugging at the end. And so so with this quote, Reggie, and that's that character right here in Skeleton Crew, he says right at the end of the play, "Fight another day." And I think that really encapsulates so much of what Dominique wanted to say. Is really, she wanted people to, you keep on fighting, you keep on going afterward, after something, and fighting, because if you just give up, then nothing can come out of it. So, just keep on fighting and things will get better. So that's basically my presentation, and now I'm just open for any questions that people may have. Any questions?
So the most recent grant that you got is going to allow students to come into the city and go to museums and learn about the context of the projects from Carol Mariso's plays.
Oh yes. And Carol, that's her mother.
Carol, right. I'm sorry.
But yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, she is some Carol.
That was a slip of the tongue, that Carol Mariso had Detroit's foremost dance company.
Oh no, I think that's her aunt. I think Carol is her aunt.
Oh, okay.
But they're really close.
Uh-huh.
They're a really close family.
Okay.
But yeah, and she had that in her family. She has another family member who's a really great artist as well. So I mean, all the arts, fine and performing arts, are all in her family. But yes, to answer your question, the students that I'm working with at Old Retford, like actually on Thursday, I'm taking them to the Wright Museum and then to the Detroit Historical Society. And so they're going through their understanding history with that, and then with the Detroit Historical Society, understanding all the history that's in this city and whatnot, so then they can have an understanding with that. Because by the end of the year, they're going to perform their own piece. They're using all this semester to do the research. They read Detroit 67, so they can have an understanding of what a play is about. And this is in an English class, so the English teacher has already taught them, beginning, middle, end, and climax, and structure of just stuff in general. So at least they know that those basic things. And it's a class that was handpicked. So a lot of they had a survey asking the students, all the seniors there, if they wanted to take this class, that they're going to do a lot of artsy stuff. Because I wasn't there when they pick these students, but these are the students that they like poetry, that they don't mind getting in front of people, or they would like to do it. So they're all excited about doing that and using it in a creative fashion. So even later on, we're going to go to the Motown Museum and to get an understanding of that as well. And so yeah, we're going to these museums, and right now we're playing different theater exercises with the theme of that era, and also just really to get them comfortable with each other and ready to play around, so then they can start developing their own original piece. So
ever since I've heard about this project, it's just so intriguing, and bringing up what happened with what was it, Paradise. The Black
Paradise Blue.
Yeah, Paradise Blue. That now they're planning, if they haven't started already, to take out the car center downtown, and that has just been a remarkable development for Black performers in the city of Detroit. Mm-hmm. And I almost wish you could get our current mayor to pay attention to your project, just to maybe someone from his office could talk about how they're going to preserve the arts in view of taking out the car center. That would be a really interesting question for those young people to ask.
Yeah, that is a thought. I will look into that, because that is something. Because when you put those politicians on the spot, they like, I better do something now. So,
right. That's right.
So that is a thought. I'll see about that, because I'm also trying to expose them to more to a lot of professionals and a lot of things that's going on, so they can know what's going on in their own city and in the nation as a whole. Sometimes you think just because you're young you don't need to know any of this stuff, but it affects them so much. So yeah, thank you.
Does she have a lot of music woven through Skeleton Crew as well? I know that was a theater.
Yeah, it's they talk about, like, Dez, he's playing music a lot, and so it's like a lot of the electronic music that was popular during that time, and a lot of the music that was created during that time period. And also with every scene, it's reflective of when you hear the sounds of the factory, those sounds are made into a hip hop beat that is the Detroit type of beat. So she uses that, but they don't necessarily talk about every artist like they do in Detroit 67. In Detroit 67, they're talking about, like, they're literally playing the record, and because it's it's about this dance, this club they're having in their basement. But so yes, it's reflective in that type of way.
What is Dominique up to now?
Well, like I said before, she's over in California right now as one of the writers on the Showtime TV show Shameless.
Okay.
And but at the same time, she is writing a new play, and I know this summer it's supposed to get produced at the Lincoln Center. So she's in doing that. She just got one of her other plays called Blood at the Root published. She worked with I think it's University of Pittsburgh. I think it is. That she worked with those grad students there and developed a play that was that dealt with the Jenna 6 back in, I forgot what year that was with Jenna 6, but basically that happened at a high school when someone put a noose on a tree and then there was retaliation. And so she developed a piece with that, and that piece has been performed around the world. And so that's just been published. So she's always writing and doing a lot of things. I mean, the hopes is that one of the plays can turn into a movie. And then also she's still just writing more plays that are reflective of the community. So she is very busy. Any other questions?
Well, let me ask you a question since, but this is not a question about the dramatic aspect, but I'm a linguist, and I was interested in that in Paradise Blues, the sympathetic character was using the black, what we call African American vernacular English. And in the other excerpts that I heard, there were little snatches of African American vernacular. Is this was that deliberate? Was it an artistic gesture of deliberation on the part of Marceau, or it was just episodic? Was there in her muse or in her writing style, was there a deliberate effort to give dignity to the natural vernacular speech of the residents, as opposed to the more colloquial English, or was this something that was just episodic?
Well, no, she, because she listens to the people a lot and the community, she wanted it to be reflective of those people. So some of the characters, they may have more education than others, and especially the one in 1949, really all of them, they did not have a college education. And so some of the characters still at the same time were, some of them could not read and some of them could read. And so all of that reflected that period and that day and time. And then with some of the other plays, like with Lank, has a little bit more education. And then moving up to 2008, with Shanita, that character, she tries to, she's still like in some of the her other speeches and dialogue that she has more of the black vernacular, but some things go back and forth with that. So
I was looking for perhaps a Geneva Smitherman theoretical center in this work, because when you associate the black vernacular with just levels of education, in a way it's a put down, because there are some people who are multi-dialectal, who are capable of code switching, and tend to use the black dialect, as you call it, deliberately as a way of presenting their identity. And Geneva Smitherman is a black scholar who has done that kind of work. And in fact, some of her own publications are written deliberately in the vernacular. So I was hoping that there is some semblance of that kind of.
I didn't mean to. I guess I did not articulate that accurately. I was more saying, like, more during the time with the 1949. They were in the area with all the black community, so they didn't have to do switch coding as much because they were within that community. But going further down with the other time periods, they had to. And even on top of with education, with the jobs that they had throughout, they had to go back and forth so then they could be able to get what they want and get what they need. So depending on who they're talking to and what is going on during that time, those things change.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what yeah, all of that is a factor. And yeah. And also at the same time, with the way I'm reading it is a little bit different than if I was like totally within this play, it would be a little bit stronger with the vernacular.
That was just an aside. You might have questions of a more dramatic nature.
But no, that's great, because yeah, she She
Because
deals with
I
that
don't
in
get
all of
those.
her plays.
Yeah, I'm
It
gonna
deals
get
with that.
those books and read them from that standpoint.
Because that leads to another thing with that she talks about the issue of having a white director for her plays. That that if there's a director who does not have the understanding of that vernacular or what's going on, then how what help can they be for the actors? And so it has to be someone who has an understanding of that, whatever what race it is. But it has been an issue because I've asked her that question specifically. Is it different having a white director versus a black director, and even the types of black directors? You know, having that understanding of the vernacular and of that community.
Here's a simple question, and I'm just curious about it. When we call this series of plays the Detroit Projects, is the use of the word projects specific to Detroit? For instance, the talent for Motown largely came from the housing projects, and so there's kind of I think there's a pun going on that her 3 plays are projects about Detroit, but also the sense of the projects and the Black Bottom area. Is that a synonym for an area of town, a slum, or a blighted area, or the projects, which would be the tower housing that people lived in, I think, just west of the lodge?
Well, every time when I've interviewed her and talked to her, she never really it's Detroit projects, meaning like it's a project. This is all of these is a project of the reason, like, you know, when she started with 67, she wanted to, her project was to like have 3 plays and to do these pivotal moments. I don't she's never spoken about it relating to like the projects, because I was thinking about that as well, but I never really went in questioning her with that specifically, with that question, because of the other things that she was talking about, that it was like a project that she wanted to do, not with, yeah, but it is, but yeah, it is.
Any other major metropolitan area,
Yeah,
it's like
I
the
know.
Detroit housing projects, the projects, we know what area of town that was.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
And it is because a lot of when in the 40s, when they had the one of the first housing projects that was built here, I forgot what was that, the Brewster or was that Truth? I think it was Truth. Sojourner Truth Housing Project. That was a big fight during that time for a lot of people coming into a lot of immigrants coming in of other races, and blacks wanted to be able to have a place to live because housing was so hard. And once they named it Sojourner Truth, then that automatically told people that was for blacks, and that really made a lot of people mad. And that was during the time when the 1943 riots happened. So a lot of these things with housing, with living in these project areas really end up affecting it. So that could be some underlining thing, and I will specifically ask her that question like that to get the understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a great.
Somebody had a question over here.
I was just gonna make a comment, is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, in terms of the play about the 67 riots, that play that the White Museum was passed on, unfortunately I wasn't able to see it, but, some people might think that it was just a piece of history, but if you talk to any person that's over 50 or 60 years old here in Detroit, who was living here at that time, they can tell you exactly what it was, like, they can tell you exactly what it was, they can tell you exactly what it was like being there in the riot, seeing, their street shut down, or having to be in at the curfew, or coming out the next day and seeing a store that was down the street burned down, things like that. Like one time I was talking to a senior citizen, she was saying that she and her husband were coming home from work like the night of the riot, and they didn't really know what was going on. And she said they were coming down 94, and at one point they were actually stopped by either the cops or the National Guard, and guns put in their faces, and they were basically told, you need to get straight home, don't stop anywhere, go, this is a curfew, that type of thing. So you can you know, instead of just being a piece of history, you talk to everyday people of a certain age, and they will tell you what it was like to actually live through that, and those incidents and how it affected them, and whether they stayed in the city or not after that, basically. And also, for the national perception is, or at least it used to be, until recently, is that nothing in Detroit had changed since the riots. You know, they seem to think, oh, Detroit's just stuck in time war, it's not going forward or backward, it's just standing there. And there's also the I guess you say the dichotomy of how people outside Detroit perceive Detroit as opposed to how Detroiters perceive it. Like when people move in out of Detroit, like say from the suburbs, which they've been doing for the last probably years, last decade actually, they'll come in and they'll say, you know what, the actually living here, the ground way of being here is so much different from what we've been told. You know, we look at the national media and at least until recently, or unfortunately still is to some extent, we're looked at as, oh, there's just drug shooting and the ham cities, just ghetto, that kind of attitude. And then people actually come here and live here and find that, oh, there's stuff going on here. People just live, do everyday things like go to work, go to school, go to festivals, whatever, just like anywhere else. And so really, let me see, so they get, I guess, a real look at the real city as opposed to the national narrative that everybody just knows us for, essentially.
And so with that, when you said that national narrative, that's what Dominique wanted to do. She wanted to change that narrative. And to be able to write plays about it, really putting it in writing and having this play performed. This play has been performed everywhere in almost every state. Well, not almost every state, because not South Dakota or something, but you know, a lot of major, cities throughout the nation has performed this play. So with that, seeing that performed and seeing this going on, people are able to have these discussions because almost every time I hear about the play being produced, there's talkbacks afterwards and things that are going on that helps people like really understand it. When I saw the show being produced over at the Ensemble Theater in Ohio, that they had in their program how some of the issues that were going on in Ohio, some of their rebellions and riots that were going on. So a lot of states have used it to really to associate with some of the things that some of their issues that were going on during that time. So it's really helping to open up the communication and also at the same time showing that Detroit is more than what you think it is, and not just a dangerous town. It's there's people here, and that's reflective of all of these other areas and places and towns. So yeah, it makes a difference when you're writing and you're getting things out there because other people don't think about it any other way because media is media. They love to make you look bad in the media. So, thank you.